Chris, it's always great speaking with you, and especially because of what we're going to talk about. First day of school. We've got thousands upon kids going back to school. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be busy. And I figure you're the perfect guy to speak with, because what are some of the safety tips that kids should be looking at, and also with families too, especially if it's the first time they're going to school?
Yeah, well, absolutely. You know what? This is a very busy day for all families, whether or not you actually have kids in school or not. We know that the traffic patterns tomorrow will be considerably different than they have been in the last couple of months. So everybody just needs to plan ahead. That tomorrow there'll be many more vehicles, many more pedestrians, and many more cyclists on our streets, not only in Toronto, but throughout the province.
You know, one of the things I wanted to talk about too, of course, is, as you just kind of mentioned, drivers. Very important, because they may have been used to the summer where maybe there weren't a lot of people on the street, but this time around, I mean, there are going to be a lot of kids out there. And if I remember last year in my area, there actually were police that were stationed in certain corners for about a month or so, just to keep an eye out and make sure that drivers are doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, for sure. You know, every year the Toronto Police Service, as well as the OPP and other police services, have campaigns specifically targeted to keep students safe in their schools and keep traffic safe in the roadways. And of course, as you had mentioned, tomorrow is going to be a much busier day than it has been for the last couple of weeks. So we ask drivers to please plan ahead, because it's going to take you longer to get to where you want to go tomorrow. Another thing that we have to remember is we have these great big orange buses that we're going to be seeing now, the school buses. Drivers need to be very cautious driving around those. And of course, we always want to remind people that when those upper red lights are flashing on the bus, drivers aren't allowed to pass it. If drivers choose to do so, they'll set themselves back $400, 6 demerit points, and it goes up from there if there's further infractions.
You know, one of the things I always remember as a kid, and, you know, we still have traffic lights, and the thing I always learned was look both ways before you cross the street. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's never changed.
Absolutely. You know, it's a great time to remind your kids, regardless of their age, is that they have to be very careful crossing the street, whether they're at a signalized intersection or just at a stop sign. So I always tell people, stop, look, listen, and look again. Don't assume that the driver sees you. Try to make eye contact with the driver so you know that you're being seen, and then progress across the street slowly, not with your earphones on or not with your head in your smartphone either. Road safety is serious business, and it requires 100% concentration, whether you're a driver, cyclist, or a pedestrian.
You know, one of the things, because, you know, these days things can be a little bit dangerous. Is it important that the parents make sure that the schools know that when the kids are in school, who is allowed to pick them up and who's not allowed to pick them up after school?
Well, absolutely, especially for the younger kids. You know, parents need to really remind their kids that, you know, don't go home with a stranger. Don't get picked up by somebody that you don't know. Tell your child if there's somebody out front wanting to pick you up and you're not certain, go back into the school where it's safe. Speak to a teacher, speak to an administrator, or speak to one of the caretakers there as well, because kids really have to remember that if it's not somebody that they know picking them up, there should be a warning bell on that, and then go back to the school where it's safe.
Should kids have these days, like maybe identification cards, something, so that if they are lost and they, you know, go to somebody who can help them, that they have an address, a phone number, things like that? Because let's face it, little kids don't have cell phones. So is that important too?
Well, absolutely, it can't hurt, but I would hope that if kids are that small, that extra care is taken by either the parents or the school to make sure that they don't go wandering off and potentially get into harm's way.
You know, one of the things I also wanted to mention too, as we're wrapping this up, is some kids sometimes they could be a little afraid about going back to school because they could be worried about bullies. It's something that we've dealt with for years. These days there's cyberbullying and those kind of things. But when it comes in school, sometimes the kids have to deal with physical bullying. What can kids do if they find that they're in a situation like that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And you know what? School is an anxious time enough for our young our young students. The last thing they need is for somebody to be bullying them in the classroom, playground, throughout the school, anywhere else. So it's very important for parents to share with their kids that if they are being bullied, either report it to the parent, report it to school officials, and it can be dealt with immediately so the school year can be enjoyable for all kids. And also, I always remind parents, remind your kids not to be a bully as well. So
absolutely. Yeah. Chris, before we go, any other advice you want to give for the kids and parents as we kick out the first day of school?
No, it's going to be an exciting day for lots of families, and we just want to make sure that people are going slow on the road, driving according to road conditions, driving according to the speed that we've set out, and just make sure that everybody has a safe, fun, enjoyable first day of school.